Such exciting news regarding the history of our earliest Santa Ana Canyon pioneers and California's families. With us now are KYLZ in the sky, Norman Doorman.
That's affirmative, Brandy Lou. We are on our way to the historic site at this time. Currently, we are on a heading of 190, passing over Eastside Community Park. Upon reaching the Santa Ana River, we'll take up a course of 240 and proceed inbound to the target location within the Friendly Village community across La Palma Avenue from Yorba Regional Park. With us now in our KYLZ studio is the distinguished scholar of California history, Professor Waylon Emery. Professor Emery, while we continue our flight path to the historic location, would you be so kind as to inform our viewers about the chapels of Don Bernardo Yorba?
Of course, Norman, and thank you for having me on the show. As you know, the Santa Ana Canyon is rich in history. In this newscast, we are going to focus on just one, very small, part of a vast and rich story. Specifically, we will reveal the exact location of the two chapels built more than 160 years ago. Yes, I said 160 years ago. The first was made of adobe bricks and completed sometime between 1858 and 1860. The second was of wood frame, built to replace the adobe structure that had been badly damaged by a series of intense storms. It was completed around 1880. While the location of the great hacienda of Don Bernardo Yorba is marked by a historical monument located at the intersection of Esperanza Road and Echo Hill Lane, and while the historic Yorba Cemetery still exists and residents can visit and pay their respects, there is nothing to indicate or commemorate where the chapels once stood. Participants on the Santa Ana Canyon History Facebook page must be congratulated. Through their combined knowledge and combined work, the exact sites where the chapels once stood can now be documented and shared. There is hope that a cooperative effort between Yorba Linda, Anaheim, and the private property owner will result in a historical plaque being placed at the site. Time now to turn it over to KYLZ correspondent Maria de los Reyes to tell us how his group accomplished the task. Take it, Maria.
Thank you, Waylon. This aerial image, taken in 1938 and obtained from the County of Orange Historical Aerial Imagery website, proved to be the breakthrough. Members of the Santa Ana Canyon History Group scrutinized the photograph and identified a structure in the general location the chapels were thought to have been, fitting the approximate shape and dimensions of a wood frame chapel of that period. It was also noticed that a darker area behind the chapel could well have been the ruins of the earlier adobe structure. Such would be consistent with photographs of the chapel taken at ground level. We will now transition from this 1938 aerial image to a 2022 photograph that has been perfectly aligned and scaled. By adding to our 2022 overhead view supplemental labels denoting prominent landmarks, our KYLZ viewers can better comprehend exactly where the chapels once stood. Now that a location has been identified as being the probable site of the former adobe and wood frame chapels, we will return to the 1938 image and show topographic details the history group used to confirm their conclusions. Zooming in on the almost 9 decades old aerial image allowed group members to identify unique surface features. These features were then compiled, and the few surviving photographs of the chapels were scrutinized to see if these very same features were visible. Here is an example showing one of several photographs used. We know the wood frame chapel was abandoned in 1948 and then totally disassembled in 1956. Because in this image, a few broken windows can be seen, and the roof is in disrepair, we can safely conclude the photograph was taken sometime between those 2 years, and most likely shot in the early 1950s. Our first unique feature is the S-shaped dirt road that curves west at the chapel steps, then curves back east, terminating at the orange orchards and eucalyptus windbreak that is obvious in both aerial and ground images. Above the S-shaped road is another unpaved path that intersects at a 90-degree angle and parallel to the railway. It runs west a short distance, then turns north to cross the train tracks and provide access to what we today call Esperanza Road. Lastly, adjacent to the chapel and immediately to the southeast is a eucalyptus tree windbreak and orange orchards. Both are conspicuously visible in the ground image as well as the aerial photograph.
Norman Doorman back with you, Maria. We are currently over Bernardo Yorba Regional Park, inbound to the Friendly Village community. Upon arrival, we will circle over the exact spot the chapel stood so long ago. ETA is still a few minutes away, so can you tell viewers a little more about the importance of the early churches?
Of course, Norman. But first let me tell our KYLZ viewers that in addition to aerial images and old photographs, maps dating as far back as the 1800s were also used to confirm the group's determination of the chapel's site. An imaginary triangle was scribed upon the century-old maps, with the 3 points being the Yorba Cemetery, Yorba Hacienda, and the chapel. Angles within that triangle were measured and the proportional lengths of the sides recorded. This was repeated on a modern 2022 map. Again, the group used the Yorba Cemetery as one point. However, because research revealed the historical monument commemorating the Yorba Hacienda was, out of necessity, not erected exactly where the main hacienda sat, it was not used. Our research concluded the main hacienda was centered upon the left turn pocket onto Echo Hill, from the eastbound lanes of Esperanza. Finally, used for the chapel, was the address, Space 34, Muriel Lane, Anaheim, California. A comparison of these measurements supported the group's conclusion. Now, let's check with Norman regarding his progress. Come in, Norman.
Right, Maria, we, had to make an emergency landing just west of, Imperial Highway and La Palma Avenue, but we are airborne again and headed northeast to the target, just 1/2 mile away. In the interim, please give our KYLZ viewers a little more background on the chapels.
Okay, Norman. But, you owe me a double-double. I'll ad-lib a little Yorba Trivia with our KYLZ viewers while you expedite your approach. Ready? A distance of only 850 feet separated the chapels from the Yorba Cemetery. If ranked in order of date established, where would the Yorba Cemetery fall in relation to all other established cemeteries in California? Answer? Number 1. In an article updated on January 5, 2023, Reader's Digest compiled a list of the oldest cemetery in each of the 50 United States. For California, they determined the Yorba Cemetery to be the oldest. Now, for something a little easier. Funeral services for Mrs. Andrea Yorba, age 86, were held in the wood frame chapel on Wednesday, September 26, 1922. How many Indian chiefs attended to pay their respects? Answer: 5. 4 of the chieftains represented the Indian Federation of Riverside. The 5th, Jonathan Tibbets, known as Chief Buffalo Heart, was the only white man ever to have been made a chief. Still stumped? Okay, this one should be a cinch. Regarding this same funeral, the deceased, Andrea Yorba, had a mother that in 1846, during the Mexican-American War, and with the help of 3 Indians, hid the mission San Gabriel Archangel's cannon by burying it in what Southern California river? The answer? The San Gabriel River. How cool is that? Last one. Look at this picture of prominent Santa Ana Canyon families taken in 1904. They are members of the extended Yorba family. Excluding the guy goofing off by wearing a woman's bonnet, are there more Peraltas, Dominguezes, Manaceros, De Los Reyes, Carrillos, or Garcias appearing in this photograph? Answer?
Maria De Los
Counting
Reyes.
only those.
Are you there, Maria? Come in, Maria. Maria, we are at the target location. Indicated now on your screen is where the chapel's front steps sat. I'm so excited I could cry. Looking now towards the east, you will see the approximate position of the adobe ruins. Golly! This is so wonderful! As we continue our orbit, our viewers will get a better view of where the rear of the wood frame chapel was.
This is so amazing, Norman. I wonder if the residents below, as they are watching Netflix on their big screens and eating popcorn, realize the sofa upon which they recline sits at the epicenter of religious and social existence for Californios during the golden age of rancho life as far back as 1860. This is Maria de Los Reyes.
And Norman Dorman.
Saying to all our KYLZ audience, thanks for watching and live graciously.